Kevin, your new book is titled There's Nothing Like This. It's about the strategic genius of Taylor Swift. Is she getting a cut of this book because she's making money everywhere?
No, she's not, but she's a business genius, so she's going to make more money in the future. And that's really what I wanted to cover in this book. I wanted to go beyond the songs and the sequins. I wanted to look at Taylor as an entrepreneur and look at her entrepreneurial instincts. And she's $1 billion enterprise at this point. So I really wanted to look at her career like I would Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs.
Well, let's start from the beginning. She started as a country act and then evolved into a pop star goddess. So was there a business plan for this before she went IPO, to use Wall Street parlance?
If you look at her early career, she ended up breaking into a market that no one thought existed. Country music was not kind to teenage girls. They did not think that market existed. But Taylor said, I think it does exist. And I don't think we'd be talking about Taylor Swift today if she hadn't broken into that market, if she didn't have such a clear vision for the career she wanted.
Would we be talking about Taylor Swift if it wasn't for Scott Borchetta? Because he was, to a certain extent, her Brian Epstein or Sam Phillips. Can you talk about his role in her development?
That was a bold move for her to go with Scott Borchetta. She had a development deal with RCA, major label on Nashville Music Row, and she left that label to join Scott Borchetta, who had no label at the time, he had no funding, and he had no headquarters. But he really believed in her vision, and he ended up having a lot of skin in the game. He needed Taylor Swift to be successful, for his startup to be successful. So that ended up being a really smart decision on Taylor's part.
She also made the decision to leave him. And there was a big question regarding her publishing rights. Now, Bruce Springsteen went through this, Tom Petty, Billy Joel. It seems though it's a big issue for artists once they're on the verge of breaking through. Can you talk about that divorce?
Yeah, that was a really, it was not a civil divorce, let's put it that way. And Taylor's life's work, her first 6 albums, were sold when Scott Borchetta sold his label Big Machine. And Taylor, I know we don't look at her as a rock star, an edgy rock star. She's not smoking a cigarette like Keith Richards when he's ripping solos. But this is the most punk rock, business savvy move she's made in her career. She decided to re-record all of that old music, and she essentially told her fans, don't listen to my old stuff. So she completely undermined the investment that others had made in her music while growing her fan base with her new re-recordings.
And her big breakthrough album was Fearless, and she had to ramp up to meet the demand, just like any startup, if you will. Can you talk about how she did that?
Well, she did this thing where she broke into an adjacent market. She still really tried to corner the country market. She didn't alienate her country fans. And then she slowly entrenched herself in pop music as well. So it's a classic adjacency strategy, and she ended up having her cake and eat it too. She conquered country music and also slowly conquered pop music at the same time.
There's also been a whole lot of competition along the way. She had to compete with the likes of Beyonce and Katy Perry. How did she do that over such a long period?
Well, she knows that she constantly needs to evolve. She never stays in the same place twice. And she's constantly evolving her sound. She changes genres. She's changed from country pop to synth pop to indie rock. While at the same time, she remains true to her core values.
And her success also spanned different technologies. So she was still selling CDs and then it went into streaming. How has she navigated that so well?
She was pretty slow to adapt to the streaming age, but if you look at the growth and the success of the Eras Tour, that was because she radically shifted her strategies to meet the demand for the streaming age. She used to be very precious with her releases. She would release an album every 2 years, but in the last 5 years, she's released 4 new albums and 4 re-records. So she's constantly engaging her fans, she's constantly in the news, and that's why the demand for the Eras Tour was so high.
Can you talk more about the ticket prices during the Eras Tour? Because there was a lot of discussion around that, and she maximized those ticket prices and didn't get a lot of resentment, as, for example, Bruce Springsteen did when he tried it.
So I would say she underpriced those tickets, because if you look at the ticket prices on the secondary market, they're in the thousands of dollars. Taylor priced her tickets between $100 and $400. Some tickets were a bit more expensive for VIP. And she's always known that the relationship with her fans are the most important relationships that she has. So she really does make sure not to extract as much value as she can from every transaction from them.
And then finally, for a while, she was only as good as her latest album, but it seems like she's transcended that. It's almost like she's elevated herself to a level like the Rolling Stones, where they really don't have to put out new music. They can still play stadiums. Is that what's going to happen from here on out?
I don't think so. I think she keeps making music. During the Eras tour, she released a completely new album, Tortured Poets Apartment, and she loves songwriting. And she's always said she loves songwriting. She's a songwriter first. And I really believe that she'll continue to make music at a fast clip, I'm sure.
All right, well, thanks for coming on and talking about your new book.
Thank you.